So the concept of managing our previous nanny's performance was just always daunting, and it made me very uncomfortable, especially since I was passive aggressive, or should I rather say that I'm recovering from being passive aggressive. And so I always made excuses. I had a limited mindset. I just thought to myself that reviewing your nanny's performance in a formal way just doesn't work, I thought to myself that reviewing people's performance only makes sense in corporate, because in corporate it just gets easier in time to not take things personally. It's not easy, but it does get easier in time. And so my limited mindset was rooted in fear. It was just so uncomfortable to initiate those conversations because I was scared that they might do something to my kids in my absence, right? And I am so grateful that my mind is shifting and I have a different perspective now. And in this episode, I'm going to give you some tips on managing your nanny's performance. Welcome to the Nanny Employer Wellness Diary podcast. My name is Relebogile. So I believe that managing your nanny's performance starts with your mindset, right? Before you even hire a nanny, every single episode that I've done this far from episode 2 contributes towards you managing your nanny effectively. I've had to learn that managing your nanny's performance is not an event. It is every single decision that you make that compounds to making this ongoing process less challenging. From prepping your mindset before hiring your nanny, to being aware of the skills that you need to improve to manage your nanny, to thinking thoroughly about your needs, creating a job ad that is clear and concise. When you are doing interviews, you asking the right questions, also setting the tone and making the nannies aware of your process and your plan to evaluate their performance, and then onboarding them efficiently. I've covered all these steps in the previous installments in detail. That's what's going to make managing your nanny's performance less challenging. There's beauty in doing these mundane tasks, and it might be awkward in the beginning, especially if you are passive aggressive like how I was, but I promise you it does get better in time. I've learned that when you are not intentional about managing your nanny's performance, you will not be on the same page in the longer run. So the mistake that I made was relying on synergy, and in the beginning of the working relationship, everything runs smooth. The nanny knows what they need to do, they go all out. Then as the months or years go by, they become complacent, they become too familiar with you. You also become too familiar with them, and there is a communication breakdown as time goes on, and you will no longer be on the same page. I am now not fearful of addressing things I'm not happy about. I don't have a limited mindset like I used to have, because there's nothing wrong about speaking up about things you are not happy about. And if someone is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, you are not only doing a disservice to yourself, but you're doing a disservice to your nanny, because they're not growing or learning anything. And most importantly, you are doing a disservice to your child, as they are not getting the best care, So I've learned that I don't have to fear addressing things if I do it with the right approach and timing. And one of the things that can help you and having the right approach and timing is having a performance management in place. And I highly recommend that you have this plan in place before you even interview the potential nannies, so that during the interviews you tell them about how you're going to manage their performance, so that they know what they're getting themselves into before accepting the job. This will also make the nanny aware that you are an organized family, So a performance management plan will consist of how you're going to review and evaluate their performance, when are you going to review their performance, and should they start underperforming, what is the plan for them to improve before you let them go. So let us unpack the how, right? You can review your nanny's performance by rating them on specific tasks and providing feedback. And you can categorize the conversation and break it down between childcare, working habits, their attitude. If they're doing housekeeping, you also include it in the review. I have a template that you can download. Check the link in the description. I personally don't know how I feel about the rating system. I guess it depends on the maturity level on the nanny that you have employed, and so you should assess if they will be able to handle it if you rating them a 1, for example, on a specific task. If you also think otherwise about the rating system, you can still use the template and let it be a guideline for you to initiate the conversation without necessarily rating them. And I think it is great to have a guideline so that the conversation can be structured and not all over the place, and to have the conversation documented. Let me know in the comments, what would you prefer, a rating system or just having a conversation and documenting it? So as to when should you review their performance, it really depends on your schedule and also whether it's the first time you are working with your nanny. I would highly recommend it. If it's the first time you're hiring a nanny, you should review their performance every quarter in the first year and then twice a year after that. And you have to be very intentional about this process. So you have to schedule it in your calendar and also send your nanny reminder closer to the date. So one of the things that will make the conversation less awkward during the scheduled performance reviews is you giving and receiving feedback as and when things are happening, and not necessarily wait for the scheduled performance reviews to start certain conversation. And this can be both when your nanny makes a mistake or when she goes above and beyond. You have to be in the habit of expressing gratitude or your grievances in real time and not hold grudges with the mindset of, I'm going to address this come performance review time. That is what's going to make the whole process uncomfortable and awkward. So one of the benefits of being intentional about having a performance management plan is that you reduce the chance of your nanny being complacent and dropping the ball by underperforming. But you can get at times that you will do everything right and you find your nanny underperforming. And this is why I would recommend that you have a performance improvement plan in place where you are going to discuss the areas where your nanny has to improve. And if they don't improve by a certain time, you will let them go. Doing this, it's going to be a fair process if you are not happy with their performance. And it is also important that when you start seeing your nanny's performance slacking, you should not assume that they are not interested in the job. You should first find out what their issues are and show concern, because it could be that they are going through some personal challenges and they can't cope, right? I always say that actions don't speak louder than words. Communication is the solution when you start seeing behavioral changes. When you are managing people, you should let go of the mentality of us. You can't make decisions based on assumptions without even engaging with your nanny and getting to the bottom of the issues. You should always lead with questions. I created a template of how you can structure a performance improvement plan. The link to download this is in the description. I also want to talk about performance bonuses. So if you prefer giving your nanny a bonus solely based on their performance, you should make it clear on how you're going to measure that so that it can be fair. Don't give your nanny a bonus 1 year and then the next year when they are expecting you, you don't give them and you say things like, you're not getting a bonus this year because you didn't do this and you didn't do that this year. That will just make your nanny resent you, right? I remember there was a company I used to work for and they used to give us 13th checks, right? And there was this year where they changed this abruptly. You know, they told us in October that they are changing the bonus system from 13th checks to performance bonus in December of the same year. So you can imagine how anxious we were, right? Firstly, because change is scary. And then also we made plans, you know, because we were used to getting the 13th checks for years. So I would highly recommend you include a clause in your contract if you decide to give your nanny a bonus. You should say bonuses will be given if funds are available, and you will confirm by September if the funds will be available or not. You don't want your nanny to be anxious about things that you have control over, you know, because at the end of the day, they are there for your child. Let me know in the comments if you gave your nanny a bonus this past year. I see on social media there are nannies who did not get a bonus and they feel entitled to getting one because they believe that they work so hard and they are contemplating if they should go back and work for the families again, and their feelings are valid, right? So this is why I say that by September you should communicate if you will be able to give them a bonus or not. I hope you found this episode valuable. If there's anything that you would add to help us manage our nannies' performance efficiently, please do comment or leave a review if you are listening on audio platforms. Please also do subscribe for more content and follow us on other social media platforms. Until the next episode, take care.